Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, September 10th. Boston City Council President Ed Flynn's our guest. Let's go on the record. With the council in crisis and pending elections, these are some tense times at City Hall. And that's before we get to Mass and Cass. The councilor's here to talk it through.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome to OTR, everybody. I'm Ben Cimino, along with News Center 5's political reporter Sharman Sacchetti. Ed Harding's off on this Sunday morning. With us here at the table is Boston City Councilor and City Council President Ed Flynn. He represents District 2, which stretches from South Boston to the South End. He was first elected in 2017. And as I mentioned, he's the current council president. He's a Navy veteran. He also served in the U.S. Labor Department during the Clinton administration, and he's the son of former Boston Mayor Ray Flynn. Mr. President, thanks for being with us this morning.
It's good to be with you, Ben. It's good to be with you, Sharman.
Thank you. Nice to have you. All right, let's start with Mass and Cass. You joined with 3 other city councilors. They want to take immediate action to pass the mayor's ordinance to give police more power to take down some of those tents and tarps that are out there. Now, the council couldn't find agreement, and now this really won't get addressed for weeks. Why, in your opinion, is this ordinance even necessary?
I think it's necessary so the city of Boston has another option, some tools to deal with this situation. And I think the mayor is providing positive leadership on this. There is a role for the city council to vote on it, to discuss it, and to implement what the policy is. But at the same time, what's happening at Mass and Cass is violence is continuing. Women are exploited. There's major drug dealing. There was someone that was killed recently that was stabbed and pronounced dead. There was a woman sexually attacked 2 days ago. The tents need to come down immediately.
Can't police move in and take those tents down now? We saw this with the late Mayor Menino and Occupy Boston. They removed the tents. You know, if there's trafficking and drug dealing, can't they just take them down?
Do they need a new ordinance to do this?
They don't necessarily need a new ordinance. My colleagues, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Murphy, and Baker, we asked the Public Health Commission to declare it a state of emergency, a public health emergency. That would give the city of Boston more tools to deal with it.
But why the delay then? Why can't she go in? Why can't police go in and get those tents out of there if there's obviously a criminal element that's going on there? Is the mayor looking for political cover here from the council to do that? She's done it before. They've removed tents before there already.
I think the mayor is providing leadership, but I also think that the city is trying to ensure that anyone that is living in a tent has a place to live. That's important, but I also think it's important to take down those tents immediately when there's escalating violence, drug trafficking, guns and knives in that area. These tents need to come down. There are people being exploited. The police are doing an exceptional job. But it's not safe for residents. It's not safe for the community. It's certainly not safe for anyone that's living there.
Well, violent crime, as you mentioned, continues to be one of the city's most urgent issues. We saw a mass shooting at the Caribbean Festival. The Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, they say crime is out of control in Boston, but the mayor says overall Boston is a safe city. Who's right on this matter?
I think what is happening in the city is there is a lot of violent crime that is taking place. People are reporting it, which is good. But we also have to ensure that every neighborhood has the right amount of police in those neighborhoods. We don't have enough police in the city. Police are retiring. They're leaving. They're joining the fire department. But violence is increasing. We have to acknowledge that it is increasing. And a lot of it is coming from the homeless camps in and around Mass and Cass, but they've also spread out to areas near South Boston, Andrews Square, or in Dorchester, or in the downtown community where I represent, Downtown Crossing, the Public Gardens. So it takes everybody to work together, advocating for more police as well.
The police commissioner has been on the job a little over a year. You satisfied with the track record he has established so far? Does more need to be done?
More needs to be done. I think he is doing a good job. I'm glad that he is increasing his presence throughout the city. He is the face of the department. I know he's increasing his opportunities to meet with people, meet with residents. So I'm glad that he is doing that. And I think we have the best police department in the country. However, we don't have enough police officers It's impacting public safety. We need to acknowledge that we don't have enough police officers and work together to get more police. But also, our police are not respected in society anymore. That's part of the problem.
Well, let me ask you, the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, they would like to get rid of the residency rule. They say others don't necessarily have to, other public sector unions, that's
other
something
towns and
they're
cities
considering.
don't necessarily have that residency rule.
Is there usefulness to that? Do you think that Boston would be able to hire a lot more police officers if the residency rule did not exist for police officers?
That's a huge issue in the city. I think we have to acknowledge that bringing people on as Boston police officers, they might make a good salary initially, maybe $100,000, maybe $90,000. But even that salary precludes you from renting a place in Boston or owning a place in Boston. I would consider giving them the option to have residency and give them the opportunity to move into cities and towns near Boston.
But if you have a family, you really can't find a decent-sized place on that type of salary. So if the city needs to hire hundreds more police officers, as the union says, and you believe we need to hire, the city needs to hire hundreds more police officers, then shouldn't all options be on the table?
All options should be on the table. That's one option that should be on the table. I think we have to move towards that, towards allowing municipal employees the option to leave when they come on the job.
The option to leave, but not at all. You don't support getting rid of the residency rule.
No, I do support it.
You do.
I do support it.
Okay.
But you can't, as you mentioned, you can't afford to live in Boston on a city salary unless you inherited your own house. You've been here a long time. But for young workers that are starting out, even people making $30,000 for the city are forced to live in Boston. That's unfair.
Is there enough urgency on the mayor's part to get the contract done with the police union? They're the last city union, I believe, without a contract. The fire department recently came to terms with the mayor's office.
I believe that's in binding arbitration right now. I'm glad the fire department and the mayor came together for a contract that serves the people, but also is fair to the firefighters as well. But on the police department, it's important that we continue working together, listening to each other, but also it's respecting police, respecting their families. And across the country, we haven't done that, and morale is low. But I think there's an opportunity for people to continue talking, because the Boston Police Department and the patrolmen and other senior officers as well, detectives, superior officers, they deserve a fair contract.
All right. The city council is in a controversial state. I think we all can agree with that right now. Some have called it, unfortunately, a clown show. Kendra Lara is now claiming a report she commissioned, paid for, shows she was only driving 27 miles an hour when she crashed her car in Jamaica Plain in June. Police have said she was going 53 miles an hour, twice the speed limit. She's also accused of driving an unregistered, uninsured car, among other things. Now, voters will have their say on Tuesday. Do you think she should have resigned?
I haven't said she should resign. I question her ethics. I question what happened, her integrity. But I didn't necessarily ask her to resign. Again, the voters will make that decision shortly, in a few days. But I am troubled by these accusations, the allegations. She deserves a fair opportunity in court to be heard. But I am disappointed in many of my colleagues, including Councilor Lara and Councilor Arroyo.
Do you believe, I want to go back to this question. She says she was going 27 miles an hour. The police say 53. That's a huge difference. You've seen the video of the damage, the fence she knocked down, the damage to the house foundation. Do you believe she was going 27 miles an hour?
Well, I don't like the fact that she is kind of blaming the Boston police for inaccurate information. I have faith in the professionalism and the honesty of the Boston police. I also had the opportunity to visit the woman whose house was hit by the car, Georgia. Wonderful woman, retired school teacher. Had an opportunity to talk to her. I believe the police officer. I believe Georgia. I believe the residents' speed was a factor. I don't know exactly what the speed was, but certainly it was a factor. You know, I think she could have handled it differently, been honest, been upfront, throw yourself at the mercy of the court, acknowledge what you did wrong, and people are forgiving.
And move forward?
And move forward.
All right, and just quickly, because you mentioned Councilor Arroyo, do you think he should have resigned over ethics violations?
I do think he should have resigned.
All right, much more to cover with Council President Ed Flynn after the break.